Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Citrix Sharefile, secure file transfer built for business. Visit sharefile.com, click on the microphone, and enter TWIST for a free 30-day trial. And by Wistia, take control of your video marketing with powerful tools and analytics built specifically for business. Go to wistia.com/twist to get your free Wistia account today. And by AWS Activate, the Amazon Web Services Startup Program. It's easy to start and scale your business with AWS. Visit aws.amazon.com/activate.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. Today on the program, we have an amazing founder named Josh who is doing a very quixotic product called DogeTipBot. What it is people can tip each other in a virtual currency, a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin called Doge. And 70,000 people have signed up for it, primarily on Reddit, and they just throw coins at each other. Something is changing in the way people appreciate each other in these forums and perhaps even make a living. And there's all kinds of interesting companies like Patreon, and Amazon had a tip jar, and YouTube's adding a tip jar. There's a bunch of different people throwing money around in virtual currencies, real currencies, to try to reward people or just thank them for their contribution to the internet. And he sent a Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics with $30,000 and built a bunch of wells for charity water. It's an amazing, crazy story. This is like one of those crazy companies that I love. Stick around. You're going to love the episode.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. This is the show where I, Jason Calacanis, the @Jason on Twitter, talk to people about changing the world through entrepreneurship, through startups, through making projects that hopefully seem absolutely fracking insane today. But then when you watch the show in 5 years, they seem absolutely simple and basic and obvious. 80-90% of people don't understand a great idea when it starts. And the road of entrepreneurship is that every year, every quarter, 10 or 20% more people understand what you're doing. So when you start Groupon or YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Tesla, everybody thinks you're an idiot and a madman. And then at some point they think, hey, you're a visionary. That's entrepreneurship. You go from being a pariah and a madman and annoying, and then suddenly you're a genius. And you probably fail along the way. You hit a wall. People make fun of you. You think you should quit. All these things happen. And what this show tries to do is accept that reality and to suspend disbelief for just a moment and say, what if this could succeed? That's what I do in my life. I angel invest and start companies. And sometimes when I'm meeting with an entrepreneur, an alarm goes off in my head and it says, this has a 2% chance of working. And that tells me do not write a check as an angel investor. And then I slowly learned when there's a 2% chance of it working, and the implied odds are that if it does work, it would be 1,000 times return and it would change the world, that's when you actually have to free yourself from negativity and the constraints of logic and actually decide to make a bet, to be bold, to go long. It's counterintuitive, right? 98% chance of failure. Nobody can figure it out. This person's a loon. This person's annoying. This person is cantankerous and annoying. And they're just the sand in the oyster shell that perhaps over time could create the pearl. That's what this is about. That's what this show, This Week in Startups, is about. This is a bit of a rant because I've had far too much coffee today. Anyway, today on the show, Josh Mohland is that sand in that oyster.
Josh.
I'm sorry, did I say Josh?
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh. Josh Mohland is that sand in that oyster. You are that pariah maniac. People think you're crazy. People think you're crazy.
Yeah, a lot do. More so 8 months ago than now, but...
So you're actually having what I just described, it seems somewhat accurate to you?
Yeah. Once they saw the metrics and the numbers, they were like, it's not as crazy as we thought.
Right. And we're, and when we say they, we're talking about venture capitalists. VCs, who, let's face it, generally speaking, they're VCs for a reason. It's because they just don't have the ability to build stuff in the world. They don't have the ability to actually do what we as entrepreneurs do. I'm not digging them that much. But the fact is, if a lot of VCs don't understand what you're doing, you're probably on for the right start. That's at least in my experience. Very few of these VCs get it. But what they do get is metrics, and you have those metrics. So anyway, welcome to the program, Josh Mohland.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And now you are running something called DogeTipBot.
That's correct.
Now, I know just enough to get in trouble here. Doge is spelled D-O-G-E.
Yep.
And it is based upon a meme of a dog that showed up on Reddit.
Yeah.
And you have DogeTipBot that's somehow related to that and a virtual currency. And that's basically the extent of my knowledge. So explain to the folks who are watching, what is DogeTipBot?
So DogeTipBot lets you throw change at people on the internet. That's the real quick, I'm at a bar, I'm going to tell you what it is.
Okay.
When I say change, I mean really, really, really small amounts of change, smaller than what people would consider worthwhile, which is what we were told in the beginning, was no one's going to care about a fraction of a penny of a tip. In what we've discovered, people actually do care. A lot of them do. 70,000 of them do.
Really?
Yeah.
You have 70,000 people throwing change at each other.
Yep.
On DogeTipBot.
Yep. In 8 months.
In 8 months.
Yeah.
Which is kind of extraordinary because let's face it, most startups never get to the critical 1,000 true fans, as Kevin Kelly would call it, the 1,000 true people. You've got 70,000. So let's show how technically this works. Because here I am. We'll pull up my screen. And, listen, a demo's worth 10,000 words.
Yeah.
I am on the Reddit. And I am in the subreddit DogeTipBot.
Yep.
And it says here, this is the demo post, nothing to see here. And so for people who don't understand what this is, it's Reddit, right? You all know Reddit is the community where people post stuff. And I'm logged in as JDawg, J-D-A-W-G, which is, of course, my rap name, my hip-hop name. I'm very deep in the hip-hop community. People know that. And you have posted here, Mohland, a post.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen?
So go ahead and reply to the post. Say something witty. Say something fun.
Okay.
Something that would be worthwhile to tip.
Right, and I'll say such post. Wow. And I think that's how the dog talks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The dog, this Doge dog, kind of talks without. He talks sort of like a Yoda kind of thing.
Yeah, if you ignore grammar, that kind of...
Yeah. And so, okay, JDawg has now said such post, wow.
All right.
And it's got 1 point, which is what you get by default.
Yep.
This is just a thread on Reddit here for those people who are listening, not watching. And now Josh is going crazy on his phone there.
Here.
Yeah. And
so you can go ahead and refresh the page.
So I'll refresh the page. And I see... +/u/DogeTipBot 100 Doge. And what just happened?
So I just summoned DogeTipBot, and what DogeTipBot's going to do is now transfer Dogecoin into your account.
Got it.
So as it's processing up in the background here, it'll take about a minute or two.
Cool.
But what's going to happen is you haven't registered for DogeTipBot yet, have you?
I don't think I have, so I can do that.
So you're going to get a message here. In fact, it just verified. So go back to Reddit and check your inbox. You'll see that you should have a message from DogeTipBot.
Got it. And so my inbox is right here with a little mail, and it says, hey, JDawg, somebody sent me this. Check it out here. And if I reply with +accept to claim it.
Yep.
So you sent me 17 cents?
Yeah, basically.
So I'll hit accept, and it says to DogeBot, accept, and I hit send.
Yep.
That's it?
Yep. So now you have an account.
So now I have an account on DogeTipBot. Mm-hmm. And how do I log into this account?
You're already in it. It's integrated within Reddit.
Got it.
Yep.
So you got Reddit to integrate you into there, or?
So what's amazing about Reddit, and one of the things we love about them, is their API and their ecosystem is very friendly to developers.
Got it.
So all of this runs on top of Reddit.
Got it.
So we actually got the inspiration from the bot that was originally called Bitcoin Tip. And it had been around for about a year and a half before we even showed up on the scene. It worked in the same way. All you needed to do was send a message to the bot. It would send you back information, and you could tip other people with Bitcoin. So we started that with we started this back in December of 2013, with the notion of, okay, well, Bitcoin's got a tip bot. We should do one for Doge. This is fun.
And Doge, as for people who don't know, was a virtual currency that's a fork of the Bitcoin code base?
Yeah, it started as a joke. And for many people, it still is, even though it's actually worth something now.
Right.
But yeah, it started as kind of a spoof parody of all of the altcoins that were coming out. You had Bitcoin, you had Litecoin, you had all these coins.
Got it.
And this is at the height, of course, of where Bitcoin was, approaching about $1,200 a coin.
Right.
So everyone was trying to get in the land rush. Everyone was making a new coin, trying to pump and dump it. So Dogecoin came out kind of as an absurd joke to parody all of this.
So if I wanted to tip you back, I would just say +/u/DogeTipBot 1,000 Doge?
Yeah, you can do that.
I'll give you 500 Doge back, so I have a little Doge left.
Yep, just respond to my comment. Otherwise, you're going to
use the same syntax you did, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that. So here it goes. I just did that. So now you're going to get 500 back.
Yeah.
And we can just go ping-ponging like this back and forth.
Yep, throwing change at each other.
So it's a little bit command line-ish in terms of how we're doing it. Like sort of actually that's how Twitter worked.
Right.
Is it possible to just like at some point will this just be like I'll hit the plus key and just give you Doge, or because people are also doing this, I know, on Twitter because some time ago, an account called Hood @SaveThemHood is the Twitter handle, said I'm giving Jason 3 million Doge or something to that effect, and I said, what the hell is this? You can pull up on my screen here. This happened back in April. And @TipDoge tipped me this amount. Is TipDoge you?
TipDoge is not us.
It's another people doing another TipDoge competitor.
It's a friend of mine out in I believe Austria. Yeah.
And so somebody gave me a tip of 3 million Doge that I gave to Hand Up because I didn't know what it was, but it's apparently $1,000.
Yeah.
So I should have probably taken that and bought some donuts or something with it.
You could have tipped some people.
But I could have tipped a lot of people with that. So. What is the bigger idea here? Because you've got 70,000 people doing this. Are they just doing it all on Reddit to sort of, just show appreciation for each other and goof off? Or has this become something where I'm tipping people because I want them to do more of what they're doing?
It's a both and. We have a lot of folks that goof off, but we also have a lot of folks that are tipping quality content. Which is kind of cool. The long-term, big-term vision that we have is we've kind of cracked the microtransaction code of getting users to actually want to use it.
What's a microtransaction for people who don't know? Well,
it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
If you ask like PayPal and them, they'll say it's anything under $20.
That's a microtransaction.
Yeah.
Okay. So a latte is a microtransaction in their bizarre minds.
Yeah.
That's not a microtransaction.
No. We think a microtransaction is anything under 25 cents.
Got it.
Even smaller than that.
Right.
A fraction of a penny.
People were talking about micropayments for 20 years. I mean, the original idea on the internet was that browsers would have micropayments built in, and as you looked at pages, you would give a penny per page, and that was going to be the business model, which, by the way, things started off as hourly. People used to pay $5 an hour, $10 an hour, $2 an hour, to get online.
Oh, yeah. I remember those days.
Yeah. And AOL would split it with you. So if you had a forum on AOL and it was $3 an hour and you kept people in there for 2 hours, you would get like 50 cents per hour or something crazy.
Right. But people have been trying to figure out microtransactions for years. It seems like every year there's a new startup trying to figure it out. And then they were like, oh, wait. It doesn't work.
All right. When we get back from this commercial break, I want you to tell me why you think it has not worked and why you think it's going to work for you. And if it does work, what the world might look like in 5 years when we get back on This Week in Startups. Hey, everybody, let me take a moment to tell you about Citrix Sharefile. It's designed for business, and it's a cloud you can trust and send files securely in. We use it here for important stuff like sensitive documents, IP, contracts, term sheets, that stuff. Things you don't want to put as an attachment on email. And you can send them all as just secure links with Sharefile, and you can send files of almost any size, access them from your computer or mobile device, obviously. And we have some screenshots here, or actually I'm logged in right now, and you can see you can do very granular controls, and this is very important to us. We want people to be able to download stuff and upload stuff, but maybe we don't want them screwing around with the files or uploading to a different directory or creating new folders. You get the idea. And we can see a log of what everybody's done in the system. This is actually very critical for us, so we don't have anybody, accessing files that we don't want them to access, that would be bad, obviously. And so what I want you to do right now is go to sharefile.com, click the podcast listeners microphone button, and use the offer code TWIST, TWIST. So go to sharefile.com, click the podcast listeners microphone button, and use the offer code TWIST. No credit card required, 30-day free trial. And we have a special offer for people who try out Sharefile. You can get How to Raise Money from Angel Investors Part 2. Now, this is Part 2 to the video we did earlier this year, and you can only get it through Sharefile. Step 1, sign up for Sharefile using the promo code TWIST. Step 2, request a file to sharefile@launch.co, sharefile@launch.co. When you request that file, we'll send you the new How to Raise Money from Angel Investors Part 2. We love Sharefile here at Launch and the Launch Festival and This Week in Startups. We use it all the time. It's a great product. It's super powerful and super easy to use. So please go give it a trial and go ahead and use that offer code TWIST so that they know our audience is so loyal. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Startups. I'm at Jason. You can find me on Twitter at JASON. I am showing off my Twitter handle, and you can find the show at TWI Startups. If you have somebody you want to be a guest on the program, all you have to say is like, hey, at Elon Musk, at Mark Cuban, why aren't you on at TWI Startups? You can go harass people. But Mark's been on the show, so don't harass him. But anyway, you can suggest people to the show. You can talk to producer Jackie. You can talk to anybody who works on the show, Jacob, whatever. And we're also on Insta, also known as Instagram. Just go to TWI Startups, and you can see little secret clips of the show. I'm Jason Calacanis on Instagram if you want to see pictures of my daughter and food and wine. So with me on the program today, Josh Mohland. He is an entrepreneur working on DogeTipBot, which is DOGE tipbot.com. Go check it out. And we're talking about microtransactions and tipping on the internet. Now, this is something that you're an old school internet guy. When did you first get on the internet?
Oh, sheesh. I was on BBS's way before that.
Oh, really? In the 80s? What, PC board?
No, I was on First Class. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, Telefinder.
Really? What year? What year was your first time? And what baud was your first modem?
2400.
2400?
2400. I'm still...
Ventel. What did you have? A Hayes? Hayes 2400?
Oh, yeah.
You want to know my first modem?
What do you have?
I had a Ventel 300 baud modem.
Oh, the classics.
Ventel 300 baud modem, this big. And the only thing really more dorky than that was if you had a phone coupler where you actually put the phone receiver on top.
Yep.
But we didn't have that. We just plugged a regular phone in. But that was like the 80s. You got online probably in 84, 85, 86?
I was born 82, so I was,
okay, 90.
late 80s for me.
Yeah. But that was back in the day before the internet, BitNet and ARPANET were sort of commonly, and there was no web.
Yeah.
People would dial up to BBSs and talk to each other.
Yeah, we were using FidoNet back then. That was
FidoNet for sure.
Yeah, that's how we communicated.
Absolutely. Wow. We're dating ourselves here.
Yes, we are.
So we've been talking about these microtransactions and tipping as something that should happen on the internet. Mm-hmm. And Amazon did a tip jar. I believe they canceled that.
Yes, they did.
And microtransactions, people talked about doing like paying per article. Everybody, there were tons of startups that were going to pay 10 cents, 5 cents for each newspaper article you read.
Right.
And it's never, ever worked. Why?
Because no one really wants to do that. No one really wants pennies. No one really wants that small amount of change.
Wait, you say the publisher doesn't want the small change, or the person tipping doesn't want that?
Users don't want to deal with that. I mean, Clay Shirky's wrote an essay back in, I want to say, 2001 that was why microtransactions don't work, basically.
Right.
And his too long didn't read summary of it was microtransactions don't work because users hate them. Users really don't like them at all. Yeah,
and I think it's interesting. Clay Shirky, of course, professor and big thinker, also was a columnist for Silicon Valley Reporter magazine back in the day. He, and I think a lot of us learned, it's too much psychological overhead to say or remember to give money if you're doing it post-consumption. But we do see something with crowdfunding that has occurred, right?
Yeah.
So how does crowdfunding, which in a way to me feels like, the bastard stepchild of maybe the microtransaction or somehow related.
Yeah.
How does it relate to it?
Crowdfunding is a really unique space because it's almost it's almost taken the concept of microtransactions, but elevated it to like, okay, now only give me $1 or $5 or $10. Kickstarter kind of pioneered that reward model too of having that. So it's almost like a conglomeration of things.
Right.
With microtransactions though, it's more like here's a penny, here's 2 pennies, here's 5 pennies.
Right.
And it becomes a little bit different because then it's like, am I really giving someone anything of value? Or do I really care enough about this to accept this of value? So the folks that have been involved in the microtransaction space have always, well, at least I don't want to say always, but traditionally have gone for publishers. So people are going to be willing to pay for content, or they're going to want to give people money for goods and services that may or may not be like ad supported or something like that. What we've done, on the other hand, is just kind of enabled people to we've just given them the toys and say, hey, here's the tools. Play with it, figure it out.
And how many months have people been playing with it now on DogeTipCoin?
Let's see. We started on December 15th, 2013, so it's almost about 8 months now.
Right.
Yep.
And what have you learned? What's the thing that surprised you about, I mean, aside from 70,000 people getting involved in it, which I guess in Reddit terms, is kind of a fairly substantial meme kind of like activity. What have you learned?
We've learned that people really love tipping. And they really enjoy doing it. I mean, when we started looking at the metrics, when I first started this, it was just myself. And I figured it was going to die out in like a week. I figured it was going to pop up, people would play with it for a bit, and then it would kind of fade into obscurity. That didn't happen. We started getting more and more users, more and more bogged down. I mean, when we hit the 3-month period, I started looking at the actual stats. And the one thing that we discovered was we tipped more with Dogecoin. Our users tipped more with Dogecoin in US dollars than Bitcoin users had tipped in the entire course of a year. So in 3 months, we had already surpassed the tipping volume of Bitcoin.
Interesting.
And our average transaction size, or say our mean transaction size, was 2 cents.
Interesting.
So with Bitcoin, I mean, the common thing that we got told was no one's going to care about 2-cent tip. No one's going to care about a fraction of a penny. People aren't going to accept these. You need to tip big amounts in order for people to get interested in what you're doing. We discovered the opposite.
So do people consider this money, or do they just consider it like virtual currency in a Zynga Farmville kind of way? Because I consider it, in looking at it, kind of just a fun way to sort of sprinkle karma, but not really actually cash it out. So what's the most somebody's made? And if somebody bought lunch or an iPhone or a laptop or paid their rent with Doge Tip yet?
Let's see. So we've sent the Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics.
Wait. Hold on a second. Stop. The story gets more and more bizarre.
I know. It's the internet.
You're a bizarre dude. I love you. Like you come up with this crazy idea, and now let's slow down for a second. Doge Tip, Jamaican.
Yeah.
No, this was a movie.
Do a search for Dogecoin Jamaican bobsled team.
Okay, I'm doing that. Tell me what happened.
So when we started this whole shabacle, one user on Reddit. He's got a great username, by the way. It's Itchy Crap Hole.
Okay, Itchy Crap Hole.
Itchy Crap Hole had this idea.
I don't think we have to censor that. Those are all fine words.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it was on the mainstream media, so they can...
I think he needs those one-wipe Charlies from the guys over at the $1 Shave Club. And just, by the way, they're not a sponsor. I'm just giving a free plug.
Anytime they mention Reddit usernames in the news, it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
He came up with this idea. He says, the Jamaican bobsled team's having funding issues. They want to go to the Olympics in Sochi this year. So somehow it got upvoted on the R Dogecoin subreddit, and we just ran with it. Because at this point, Dogecoin was so new, people thought it was still a joke. They didn't know if it was real or not. And we're like, well, sheesh, let's do a crowdfunding effort and send the Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics. It's a perfect fit for us because no one thinks we're real either.
So how many people had to donate Dogecoin to have this happen?
I don't know the exact number, but I know that we raised $25,000.
That's incredible.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Keep going.
So after the Jamaican bobsled team, we decided that, or I should say...
So now are they going to make a Cool Running too?
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Based on like the cryptocurrency.
The story of Dogecoin.
Yeah.
And
Okay, keep going.
So after the success of this, we're like, wow, we can actually do something good.
Right.
So the next thing we did was we sponsored charity water to build wells in Kenya.
Okay, charity water. We remember the episode of This Week in Startups when we had Chris Saka on, and he dropped so many F-bombs that we bought a well.
Yeah. Well, so I swear a lot too, but so we put everything into the swear jar and raised $50,000 to charity water. And
wow.
Hood was
this
actually
is Doge
involved
for
in that.
Water?
Yeah, dogeforwater.org.
Yep.
And
so where are people getting these Doge coins from? Did they mine them as well, or do they built them up as tips on Reddit, and then they were just like, screw it, I don't need these. I'll just give clean water to people who don't have clean water.
So miners, of course there's miners. A lot of people that got into Dogecoin were originally Litecoin miners or Bitcoiners. We have a lot of new cryptocurrency users. So we have people that bought Bitcoin or Dogecoin for the first time, jump in and start tipping it. But to kind of give you some perspective, in the last 8 months, DogeTipBot's processed roughly $235,000 worth of tips.
Wow.
Yep.
So it's actually working for the first time.
Yeah.
And there's like two other examples, I think, of companies that have actually made something like this work at this very moment in time. One is Patreon. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yep.
So explain to the audience what Patreon is and how that differs or is similar.
So Patreon's more of a sponsor a particular idea or a particular person. It's kind of like, I really like your YouTube video series.
Right. It's a YouTube thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's YouTube. YouTube's actually one of the best use cases. Like people that create quality content, people can individually sponsor them. So it's kind of like, being a Patreon. Yeah.
Got it.
So Patreon's probably one of the best examples of individual crowds or individual people funding individual artists or content producers.
Got it. And so here you can see this person, Meister Lisharn, he does video games, and it says give $1 per Germanized video. He's got 31 patrons, so he gets $60 every time he posts a video. But there are other people who have gotten to like thousands of dollars on this system. So there is something to this.
Yeah.
Small number of people patronizing or tipping people.
Yeah. No, there really is.
If you keep this going, can it become more mainstream? And what's your ambition here? Because I have to say, let's do this when we get back from the commercial break, but what is your ambition beyond the meme and the sort of, kind of doing pranks and having fun and just showing how powerful the internet can be in aggregate with a bunch of small behaviors when we get back on This Week in Startups? Hey, everybody. I want to tell you about Wistia. Wistia is a private B2B, like business-to-business solution for serving up HD videos. It's software as a service. It's sort of like, how MailChimp does email or other services. Squarespace provides hosting and websites, beautiful, elegant ones. This is for video. Wistia is gorgeous and perfect and easy to use. And the way Wistia wound up becoming a partner on the program is I was looking for some way to control 100% of the experience for when you come to thisweekinstartups.com of what you experience on the player. Like, I don't want, like on other services where they start sending you to other videos and try to increase their engagement on their site, and then it's got all their logos all over it. I just wanted to have a clean, beautiful player. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to pay somebody to put a video server up or get in, a cloud account or FTP storage. I was like, this is too much work. All I want is a place to upload my files and have them be super clean and elegant. And then I found out, so when I tweeted, I'm looking for this, literally out of 50 responses, 45 were Wistia. And then I found out about all the other features Wistia has, like you can, when the video is playing, say, hey, would you like to get more emails from Jason? Put your email address in. If you're using another service, they won't let you do that because they don't trust you to actually engage your own audience, right? And that's just, to me, horrific. That's why I was really pissed off at those other companies that are all about them and all about sending traffic around their network. And when people subscribe, they get to keep their email addresses and we don't get it. Now we get to have that little opt-in. Hey, would you like to get, more from This Week in Startups or the Launch Festival or Inside or whatever it is? Additionally, I can make the size the way I want it. And then it has analytics so I can see who's watching the program. And it's very detailed, granular analytics that you just can't get from other services because they don't want you having the data. They're trying to intermediate your relationship with your audience. Well, I'm trying to disintermediate those people, and I want to have a direct relationship with my audience. That's why I use Wistia. This is what professionals like MailChimp, Moz, Blank Label, This Week in Startups, and many others use. They have 50,000 customers. The company's doing amazing. They have a ton of support as well. So if you are in the business of video, and listen, every business is going to need video, you don't want to put your videos out there in all these other random places. You want to have a beautiful, crisp, clean player on your site with a URL that says, hey, here's our explainer video. Here's how our product works. Here's an interview with our clients, or here's my podcast, whatever it is. And that's what Wistia provides. It was like my dream come true. I love using the product, and it like works really beautiful with like Twitter. So when you put it in there, it embeds it automatically, like tweet cards and all that stuff. So everybody thank at Wistia, Wistia, and thanks so much for giving us a professional solution. Hey, go to wistia.com/twist. And no credit card is required. And the 3 videos that you put up, the first 3 are free. Thanks again, wistia.com/twist. Let's get back to this amazing episode. Hey, everybody, welcome back to This Week in Startups. You can follow the show on Twitter at TWI Startups. You can follow the show on Facebook. Actually, no, we don't care. We don't do anything on Facebook. Why would we do anything on Facebook when Facebook double-tricked and double-crossed everybody when we said to buy likes, and then we post something on Facebook and we can't even reach our people. They that stupid edge rank, I don't trust them. We don't do anything on Facebook, so don't look for us on Facebook. It's a waste of time. Just go on Twitter at TWI Startups, or go to thisweekinstartups.com and find us there and join our mailing list and blah, blah, blah. We are talking with Josh Mohland. He is the founder of DogeTipBot, which has 70,000 people, which has processed $250,000 in tips, pennies at a time, the average one being 2 cents. It's a crazy phenomenon. And we're talking about microtransactions and tips here today on This Week in Startups. When you started this, you didn't think this was going to be a startup, did you?
No, not at all. No, I was working another job.
So you had another gig, and you're doing this just as like a weekend hack.
Yeah, this is kind of a nights and weekends thing.
Got it. Now it's a company.
Oh, yes.
And you hope to do what now that you've proven you can get a bunch of Redditors to play with, tipping, and then also do insane and fun things like send a Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics and, put a bunch of wells in with charity water. What's your intention here? Like, what will this project look like, or this company look like a year or 2 from now?
Yeah, I think what we're working towards is actually making microtransactions work, making it actually fun for people to use. And I think the emphasis is on fun because that's really what we see a lot of, especially on Reddit. I mean, every service that we want to launch to, we're going to be bringing our service here to Twitch next week.
To Twitch?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So people on Twitch, which was just bought by YouTube.
That's not confirmed yet.
No, it got confirmed. It got confirmed last week. I'm confirming it right now. So anyway, Twitch is a video game channel where you can watch people play video games live.
Yeah.
So you're saying you'll be able to Doge tip content creators there.
Yep, that's correct.
So that's kind of cool. Did they reach out to you? Were you just a fan of them? How did that come about?
I know a lot of the folks over there.
Cool.
So yeah, we had a lot of our users want to start doing it. We have a lot of my sister's a Twitch streamer too, so we had a lot of users request it, and it kind of seemed like a natural fit for us. So we decided to start researching that. Went and talked to them. Ended up having to recode our entire backend to basically. Twitch is huge. They process I think it's like 1 or 2 million chat messages a second.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wait, this is for people who are chatting with each other to tip them. But what about, so this is not for the creators?
It's really, for both.
For both.
Yeah.
But what do you think it's going to be mainly for? Because it seems like you're creating this great thing, and tipping. Has Discuss decided to, like the big, huge tipping platform Discuss, have they decided to Doge tip in there or no? Can you Doge tip in there?
We're working on that too, yeah.
So you're talking with the Discuss folks.
Yeah.
Because that would be a home run. They've got like 1 billion people on that platform.
Yeah. The thing is like every service has a different use case. Everyone uses DogeTipBot or any type of tipping service on different platforms for different reasons. It's almost like, people don't go on Reddit to find their friends. They go on Reddit to comment on things and look at what's new. Yeah. People don't go to Facebook to meet strangers. Go to Facebook to meet their friends. So we're seeing different use cases for Doge tipping and kind of the microtransaction economy. it's going to be very different on every service. So what we're doing right now is really experimenting and saying, okay, well, how are people going to use it? So with Twitch, that's going to be a grand experiment. We're going to see if people want to either tip content creators, so whoever's streaming, they want to tip them.
Yeah.
If the streamer wants to do giveaways to their users in the chat rooms, they might want to do that. Or if the people in the chat room just want to start throwing change at each other. So
you're open to all of that.
We're open to all of it, and we're kind of going to see how it works.
Now, are you tied to Doge as the currency always, or is this something where you think you need to have your own currency, or it needs to be real money for regular consumers to get to it, or is the sort of power that it is Doge?
Well, that's part of the experimental phase. I mean, I still believe that most cryptocurrencies right now are still in the beta phase, Bitcoin especially. So, I mean, what
do you mean by that?
It's very new technology. Yeah. It's we're kind of seeing the limits of what Bitcoin's capable of. Yeah. As far as how many transactions you can actually do per minute, how many how big the blockchain is going to get over time, the cost of a transaction. So there's a lot of variables. So the software is constantly being improved. The problem is it's worth so much right now that everyone's like, you can't change it.
Right. So they're kind of a victim of their own success. So many people have spent probably tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent on Bitcoins now. So that kind of ankles the currency in terms of changing and fluidity, whereas Dogecoin doesn't have that. Yeah.
Dogecoin has the ability. I mean, a lot of the altcoins really do. They have the ability to kind of change and play around with things. And the nice thing about Doge is it started as a joke. Yeah. So it's fun to play with. Right. And people, I mean, when we first started this, our first question on our FAQ was, is this real?
Right. Is it in fact real?
Yeah.
So do you see a time when people will be able to sustain themselves being a commenter on Reddit?
Like stranger things have happened?
Like really, because you think about it, like we have seen people who were the big top diggers when Dig was big. Yeah. Were being paid covertly to put stuff on there, but they also became kind of famous and had secondary extensions. We've seen bloggers, which were sort of like commenters, become a sustainable business. In a way, if you really fell in love with a certain commenter on Reddit and everybody gave them a couple of bucks, which would only be like, let's say if they got 100 people to give 10 cents each, it'd be $10 a comment. And if they do 20 comments a day, they'd be making $200 a day, which means they would be making, my gosh, $70,000 a year if they did it every day of their lives.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would actually happen. Because what I see usually, the use case that I see on Reddit is people don't usually follow particular people around and tip their thing. So it's not like a Patreon style setup. Right. It's more along the lines of, I really liked what you said. That's funny as hell. Let me tip you. Yeah.
So, but if a comedian or somebody who was good at one-liners went into the Doge community and just started ripping on people, it would almost be like somebody who was awesome at being I don't know, like what do they call that? Like a stand-up comic at a roast. Yeah. Somebody could actually maybe emerge and do that. Yeah. Like the unknown comic, or like if Triumph the Insult Comic Dog existed.
Right. I'm trying to think of. I don't have the stats on me.
Oh, Josh, you're such a great Dogecoiner. Your comments are so good. Oh.
So no, that brings up a good point, though. We've had
that's my Triumph the Insult Comic Dog.
I had to clarify something. I had to clarify something. Probably back in February, I think it was. I had to clarify that just because you tip someone doesn't mean that they accepted the tip.
Yeah. So how many tips are collected or abandoned?
About 90% are collected.
Oh, wow.
Yep. We have a huge response rate. So a lot of people do accept the tips. I think it's like something like 28% of the people that get tips go on to tip other people.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. We had some kids from MIT wanted to do a study on us. So we gave them all our stats.
So let's talk about your company, because I get the idea. You've been pulling the string, like you're kind of goofing off, but then it becomes like there's a potentiality here of this becoming a business. What's it like going to investors and saying, hey, I've got some metrics here, I've got something brewing. Do they laugh at you, VCs? Do angel investors look at you and say, like, are you crazy? Has anybody committed to investing in you?
There's three camps that I've talked to a lot of VCs, a lot of angels.
You really talked to a lot of VCs?
Yeah.
They'll take the meeting.
I was in the startup showcase at Coin Summit. Okay. Down here, and we were we presented on stage to a bunch of VCs and Bitcoiners.
Interesting.
We were the only non-Bitcoin startup.
So
there.
the VCs actually took meetings?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, tell me what that's like. Go ahead, keep going. 3 buckets.
So
Three buckets.
So there's 3 groups of people. You have the VCs who we'll meet with, or the angels and VCs I'll meet with, and they just don't get it at all.
Yeah.
So it's mostly like, well, here's what we're doing. Cool,
Yeah.
We'll talk later. There's the group of people that I'll meet with that are like, that's great. Why aren't you doing it with Bitcoin?
Right. So they're basically like, I have heard so much about Bitcoin. I don't know about Dogecoin. Why would you not do Bitcoin? If it fits in the Bitcoin bucket, I can give you money.
Right. So we have, those folks.
The robots.
Yep.
The lemmings.
And then the third group are the folks that are funding us. So
Got it.
Yeah.
And so you have raised money, or I guess you're in the process or whatever. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But the people who would invest in this, are they sort of like Redditors, or they're just crazy angels?
Crazy angels that actually see what we're doing and understand kind of where we're going.
Yeah, because I'm, as an angel, kind of intrigued by it. That's why I sort of reached out to you, was like, hey, listen, we got to talk about this on the show because there's something bigger here. But I'm also interested as an investor in, like, my God, this feels to me like, remember when I said in my little preamble here, like a 1 or 2% chance that something could actually work. I kind of feel like you're in that kind of camp. Like, chances are this doesn't become a big thing. But if it does, my gosh, it could be kind of change the game kind of a thing.
Yeah.
What do you think you have to prove? What problem do you need to solve to take this out of the, technical, nerdy Reddit group to mainstream? When is my, cousin, mom, brother who has an iPhone, who spends 5 hours on the internet, so they would be considered technically savvy for a civilian, but somebody not in the Valley, a civilian who's tech savvy, does this?
Yeah, like my friends in Arcata, like everyone I talk to.
Yeah.
So, like I said, with all of these currencies being beta technology, I think there's still a lot of space for the currencies themselves to grow up. I mean, it's still very hard to acquire Bitcoin. It's still very hard to acquire Dogecoin.
Yeah.
It's still very hard to wrap your head around it, much less, try to get help with it. So I think as far as the space goes, it's still got a couple years of growing up. From our perspective, as far as bringing what we're doing into the mainstream, we're looking at kind of making it easier for the regular user to jump on board. So, we're kind of doing the boring stuff like writing better documentation and making nice pictures that show how to do this.
Right.
So, technically speaking, though, like we're just trying to launch on as many services as possible to bring in the early adopters.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where we're at.
So if you can get to, like you're saying, like Twitch and, Discuss or whatever platforms have early adopters who are semi-technical or very technical, that's the next step.
Yeah.
And then they would then teach the civilians. Where the product gets so much easier to use.
That's the goal. I mean, we want to make it as simple as like, download this app. Here you go.
So you download the app and do what? What in your vision of the most simple version of what you do, what happens? You download the app and what?
Well, that's the thing. It's like everything has a use case. And with Android, it's like, well, there's ways that so I've got my phone and I can send Dogecoin to someone else. Well, that's boring. I mean, everyone does that. You can do that with Bitcoin. You can do that with PayPal. I think Square just came up with their Square Cash. So you can do that with cash. But the one thing that we have is the ability to do these microtransactions. And the microtransactions themselves, it's almost like feeding the ego. So one of the things that we noticed that was actually kind of crazy is that we let you tip, there's been some charitable contributions, some big organizations, some big benefits that the Dogecoin community has done. What we saw, because you can send money directly to the address, straight from your desktop or mobile client. What people were doing instead, though, is depositing money into their DogeTipBot account and then posting on Reddit with the tip. So it was more like, hey, I want to be recognized publicly for throwing money at people.
Interesting.
Yep.
So there's definitely the street finds its own use for this kind of a thing that's coming.
Yeah.
Now, what about publishers? Because that seems to be a place where they're suffering. Reddit is sort of self-publishing comments, and then you get to Twitch and you're sort of starting to talk about people who are semi-pro, whatever. But what about a publisher? Like, would it be ridiculous to think that Gawker or Engadget or TechCrunch or any other publication that had, people's names on it could get Doge.
Yeah.
And you could somehow figure out how to grab their RSS or maybe get their permission to just give Doge to their people. And that could be like almost, the restaurant is paying the salary or the baristas or getting paid by Starbucks. But there's a little cup there that they get a little extra.
Yeah. And we've thought about that too. I was talking with Adam Levine, who runs the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast.
Okay.
And he put up, kind of a Bitcoin, basically a QR code where you can donate Bitcoin. And it's hit or miss. One of the things that we like about our TipBot on Reddit is it's frictionless. So you don't have to whip out your phone, scan the QR code, hit this, hit this. So, just doing a plus Doge ShipBot like we did, it allows you to easily transact on these blogs or on Reddit.
Right.
So what we'd like to see is the ability for individual sites and individual content creators on, say, Gawker or anyone that's using WordPress, for example, have the ability where they can actually get tips from their readers or from their commenters. In fact, that's been one of the biggest requests we've had, because some of the larger blogs have almost a built-in community of commenters.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Fred Wilson's blog has a crazy group of people commenting constantly.
Right.
And he's really worked on that because he's an investor in Discuss and he's on the board of Discuss. So I think Fred spends more time on his comments than he does on his blog posts, which really shows you what a great investor he is, because he is so focused on making Discuss work that he spends that much time on the comments.
Yeah. And that would be awesome if you really like what Fred says in the comments. You could just tip him some Doge.
Yeah. Or I just love the idea that a publication could act independently, or that individuals could act independently of the publication and give money to their favorite writer.
Right.
So if you love Boing Boing and you're like, Pesco's cool and, I kind of don't like Corey, he's kind of annoying, but I love Shenny, or, I'm not into Shenny's nonsense. I really like Corey. Corey's the man. And, I want to give Corey more Doge. I think that's what you should do, is see if you can get Boing Boing, because they have those passionate people, to just put a Doge tip button there, and you could Doge tip those people and see what happens, or some way to do that. Is there going to be a button that you put on websites?
Yeah, we're working on that, actually.
Because everybody's been really wanting to do that for a long time. That was what the Amazon tip was, and it never worked.
No, and it's going to be, we want to try a few things, because we're going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Got it.
And buttons are one thing. We've thought about, one of the things that makes Reddit so frictionless is you don't have to think about it. You just type it and it's part of your comment. So you don't have to think.
Right. So I thought that people were writing the tip independently, but no, they're writing a comment and then putting the tip under it. That's the use case. I get it now. I get it now.
That's why it's so frictionless. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to leave Reddit. It's all embedded in the site.
Right.
So that's what makes it so easy.
Well, people could start doing that on Discuss right now.
Kind of.
And you would just scan Discuss looking for it, or search Discuss looking for it, but that would be imperfect.
Yeah, we need a couple extra API calls.
You would probably want those extra API calls. You could scan it and scrape it and whatever, right?
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be.
I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to it sometimes.
Yeah, it would be hard to do, right? But people could start doing this and just let it rip. Can people do it on Twitter today or no?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So people, because that's easy, right? You just do a search, or you hit the API and search for it.
Yeah. Twitter's, they limit you as far as what you can do, as far as restrictions.
Rate limit and stuff like that.
Yeah, rate limiting has always been our problem.
But if everybody who's logging in is then searching for it and you can get some extra API calls, it should be possible.
In theory, yeah.
All right. So let's say you do everything right. 10 years from now, what's going to happen that makes this amazing?
I think we're going to see it's going to be normative for tips to occur for quality content. So instead of upvoting something, you're going to tip someone. We're seeing that already on our Dogecoin. It's like the common thing, it used to be said on Reddit, I wish I could upvote this more than once. And what we've created is the ability to upvote something more than once. So it's a way of actually monetizing the upvote. It's a way of making it more interesting.
That would be very interesting if Reddit was actually sorted by the number of tips, right?
Yeah.
That'd be an extra filter, but you could probably could you do that with a Chrome extension or something? Resort the comments or show the top comments by Doge?
We could definitely do that actually with the information that we have. Yeah.
See, that would be people voting with their dollar, which would be super interesting. Even for the top level of Reddit, if you saw like this story, got this many upvotes because it's a meme and people think it's funny, but this other story, is kind of got a little gravitas to it and people voted it up with their dollar to see it go up in there. It would be kind of payola, I guess, in a way, but but it would be done by individuals. So if you just did it if you stripped out like any one company paying to do it, right? Like you don't want a company paying $1,000 to hit the front page. They should go through the advertising, but you could actually have it be individuals voting in a group.
Yeah. I mean, we could publish those stats too. So
it'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. It's really a really interesting idea. And I think so what's your background that led you to this? Like who are you, Josh?
So I've been working with computers since I was a kid.
Obviously with the BBS.
Yep.
But have you been gainfully employed or an entrepreneur before?
Started and failed a couple of companies.
Oh, great.
Way back. Yep. That's
Awesome.
how you learn.
Yeah.
Ended up working in litigation, surprisingly.
What, you're an attorney?
No, I was working for a law firm. We were doing canned spam litigation. So we were suing spammers.
Wow. AOL did fantastic with that, right?
Yes, they did.
AOL was I remember because I sold the company to AOL. They were very good at never, ever letting people go. They just took it to the mat. And also, I think Microsoft with Hotmail was also one of those, right?
Microsoft was, also during that time.
And they actually succeeded pretty often, right? Like they got judgments against people. And did that actually discernibly stop spam or just moved offshore?
No. It just moved.
It just moved offshore.
Well, and the technology got better too.
The technology to stop it or the technology or both?
Technology to stop it, and then it just became so unprofitable. Email spam is, if it doesn't make money, move on to the next thing, like Twitter.
Right. Which is what people did, right? Like, so it actually, in a way, did work because today people don't bother spamming or?
Yeah, not as much as they used to. Yeah. There's better ways for, shady individuals to monetize their CPA and
So
CPM.
That's fascinating. So you spent some time on the dark underbelly helping the attorneys figure out who was doing all this?
Yep.
So you were like a white hat finding all the black hats and then kind of trying to bring them to justice.
In a way, yeah. It was fun work, parsing millions of emails and writing software to do that.
You wrote software to figure out where it came from.
Yeah, and analyze the headers.
And analyze the headers and all that kind of stuff.
All that fun stuff.
What did you think of the concept, I think it was called Good Mail maybe? Mm-hmm. I think AOL had bought the company, where they said everybody who sends an email has to pay a tenth of a penny or a hundredth of a penny to get into AOL.
Yeah.
And they actually did it, and those would be like kind of whitelisted.
Yeah.
And that would reduce spam. What do you think? Did that ever take off or not? And why not?
No, it didn't really take off at all. And that's kind of interesting because that was also one of the original kind of precursors to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin.
Ah, really? Why?
Just the concept of that small transaction attached
that's
to.
Why.
Yeah. So because like in Bitcoin and Dogecoin, there are transaction fees attached to any transaction that takes place. And part of those fees is so you can't spam the network. So it actually costs money to send a Bitcoin or it costs money to send a Dogecoin. So it was almost a precursor.
That's interesting. And most of all the places that are letting you transfer Bitcoins, these hubs are requiring you pay a small fee.
Yeah. It actually, the software itself requires you to pay a small fee.
And so that keeps people from just pounding zillions of payments out to spam people or something? Or ring their email boxes?
Yep, and destroy the network, basically.
So people could do that. What's a chance that somebody could do some huge attack on the Bitcoin network to make the blockchain so big or insanely transactional that it could start shutting stuff down? And have people tried that kind of nonsense?
They have, but it's just not. It's not economically viable. Yeah.
It would cost you a lot of money to do.
Yeah.
What if somebody had, I've got 1 million accounts over here and 1 million accounts over here, and then I just start round robining, sending coins between them.
Yeah.
To just flood the networks with transactions because I'm just sending the coin back and forth.
Yeah.
And so whatever the smallest Satoshi or whatever is, fraction of a Satoshi, I don't know what it would be, but you'd be sending a fraction of a penny, but the transaction cost would be so great that you couldn't shut it down.
Yeah, basically.
Huh. And with Doge, it's the same thing. All these currencies have built that in to stop people from doing that.
Yeah, Dogecoin actually had dust transactions, or what's called dust transactions, which are those small amounts that are built to spam the network. So there were a lot of those early on.
Dust transactions. I love that.
So that was actually when they upped the transaction fee in Dogecoin to one single Doge.
And so what do you think will happen with Bitcoin? Do you think Bitcoin is the currency that will become mainstream 5 or 10 years from now? Or do you think another currency will get it right, like i.e. Stellar or Ripple or somebody who comes out with a 2.0?
You never know. I mean, it's one of those things where Bitcoin's got the staying power because it's been around so long. It's so big. I don't want to say it's too big to fail, but it's so large right now and has such a foothold in the industry that it's going to be around for a while. The nice thing about kind of what we're doing is we're not hedging our bet on any particular coin because our software itself is coin agnostic.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. So we could actually wrap this around almost any particular
so
coin.
you could tip in Stellar if you wanted to, or you could tip in Ripple, or you could tip in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You don't support that now, but you will, I'm assuming.
If it seems like that's going to be something that's going to get used. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, we joke around that nobody's really tipping in Bitcoin. Right. And it's kind of true.
Because they value the Bitcoins and they want to amass more of them.
Yeah. We're seeing that a lot.
People feel too greedy about them.
Yeah, or they just want to tip large amounts. So we're like, I want to tip this guy $5. And then in Dogecoin, it's just people throwing change at each other.
Interesting. Well, listen, continued success with it, Josh. It's a very crazy idea, and I like that about it. And I think that you've hit on some nerve, and then it's really up to you to take the whatever it is, small percentage chance, and then every month that goes by, convince more and more people that this deserves to exist in the world.
That's what we're doing.
It feels like you're getting there. I mean, God, just 8 months and all this great success. So good luck to you with it. 70,000 registered users.
Thanks.
And up to 2,000 transactions a day. Crazy. Hey, thanks to WeWork for building me a studio here. And they've got great offices everywhere. Go to WeWork.com. If you want to be on the Twist list, go to twistlist.co. And thanks to our partners and sponsors and everybody, and thanks to Emily working so hard on the Launch Festival and Launch Scale, and Brandon doing a great job there, Andrew on the Launch Ticker, Luke and Demont, and everybody keeping the lights on. Welcome to the team, Drew, and J&J on the ones and the twos. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.